TikTok has signed a deal to create a new U.S. joint venture. An internal memo obtained by ABC News says the social media app will now be controlled by mostly American investors. Last year, Congress passed a law banning TikTok here in the U.S. if its parent company didn't sell its U.S. entity to Americans. Now TikTok CEO says, quote, there's more work to be done as they move toward a closing date in January. Let's bring in ABC News tech reporter Mike Dobuski for more on that. Hi, Mike. So how close are we to a deal here?
So it's not quite a done deal just yet. So this is basically an agreement to have a group of American investors take about a 45% control of TikTok. The remaining investors who already had invested in TikTok now have to kind of reshuffle. So that's going to take a few weeks to figure out. Shou Chew, who is the CEO of TikTok, says that January 22nd is the target date to basically cross all the T's and dot all the I's. And at that point, Diane, if everything goes according to plan, it would bring to an end a years-long saga over the control of TikTok.
And I want to talk about that a little bit, because this fight over TikTok's ownership started during the first Trump administration. Why did it take so long to get here?
It's a great question. So in the first Trump administration back in 2020, President Trump signed this executive order that would effectively force a sale of TikTok, or it would face a ban in the United States. However, that order never really ended up going anywhere. It was challenged in the courts, and it kind of sputtered to a halt. Well, last year, a bipartisan piece of legislation passed through Congress aimed at largely doing the same thing, either forcing a sale or facing a ban in the U.S. That went forward, and it gave TikTok this window to find a buyer. Well, it took a couple extensions to that window. In fact, we're more than a year past the point where that legislation was signed, but now they have reached that point. And widening out here, the real concern, Diane, is that China's government could compel ByteDance, TikTok's Chinese parent company, to either spy on American users, somehow access TikTok's data that they have on American users, or they could potentially leverage pro-China messaging into Americans' feeds, basically get that messaging in front of eyeballs that would otherwise not see it.
And those privacy concerns are really at the heart of all of this. So what does this deal do to address that?
So that's going to be the big question to watch after January 22nd. This new U.S. joint venture, as TikTok calls it, now has control over both the algorithm and the data privacy piece of TikTok. And what they do with it, we just don't quite know yet. If they make changes to the algorithm, for example, well, that's going to send major ripple effects through the 170 million Americans who use TikTok regularly. So these new investors are going to have to tread carefully if they want to maintain that user base. The other big question mark here, Diane, is how China feels about all of this. Now, back in September, President Trump said that China's leadership was all on board with this new arrangement, but as for definitive, statements on exactly how China feels about all of this, we just haven't heard anything on that front yet.
All right. ABC News tech reporter Mike Dobuski. Mike, thank you.
Of course.